Welcome to the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Together we explore the vast landscapes of life, delving into the rich soil of experiences, sowing the seeds of curiosity, and harvesting the profound wisdom that each episode unfolds. Welcome again to another podcast of Harvesting Wisdom. I'm your host, Mike McMahon. Today I have two very interesting guests, Brad Kimmelman and Doug Edgelow. I've known Doug for quite some time, and we've dabbled with different ventures. So I'll get into a little bit of your bio, but you guys fill in. You know more about yourself than I do. Doug, you started in Canada,
Right.
Had a big old landscape company. You belong to the association. You were the president. You have a degree in psychology and in business, and you went from Canada. You came to the States, went over to Honolulu, went to school there for an MBA, then came to Arizona. Did some big developments here. I don't know how you transitioned to that, but you tell me about that. But did some big condo units. I know you were down in Mexico doing some big projects. So you've gone from working the land and working with farming technologies. You had you were growing hydroponic plants at one point at City Farms. So you had a passion for working with organics and nature, and you have a business degree, a psychology degree, and you're working in development. And now you're kind of merging that for a new project we'll bring on. And then Brad, your background, you're back from New York.
I am.
I'm in upstate New York, so we're almost like polar opposites, even though we're super close. I'm from Buffalo, but you're from just outside the city.
Just about 20 miles north, yeah.
So, and you had a background as early entrepreneurship. You were working in music and in acting at an early age, got yourself an agent at an unbelievable young age. 12 years old. And, you had a pretty good career doing that, and probably the love of that, for quite some time. You've got degrees at Boston University. In film. Your parents actually it'd be great to have had them on the podcast. Your father sounds amazing. A cartoonist, lifelong cartoonist. Yep. And
somewhat famous.
Yeah, did some big stuff. We're going to try to get him to do a little bit of freebie pro bono stuff for a nonprofit, Mm-hmm. Your mom was a fashion photographer, and back when photography was photography, by the way, and
Correct.
You had your own prints, and so it wasn't digital. It wasn't.
We had a dark room in our basement growing up. Yep.
Great stuff. So very creative stuff. You come from a family of creativity and did a lot of different things. Then you kind of shifted into working with management of people.
Yes,
and
in real estate.
And then you got into the real estate.
I always dreamed of being a real estate agent. Yeah,
everybody dreams about that.
Mm-hmm,
right?
Sure.
But you're top dog with, Sotheby's is one of the, the most well-known international groups out there, and now you guys kind of have come together on a project that my landscape company may be involved with, and our soil company might be involved with, which is kind of an ecotourism property. I've been up there many times with you, Doug, and easy to fall in love with that property. And it's right in an area that no one really even sees or notices, but you're across the street from Sedona in a quieter area that you've got the river there, you got the big well, the Montezuma's well there, a lot of history back in that area with the Native Americans and the cowboy stuff coming through. So it's just really kind of a special property. And what your plans to do with that are pretty amazing. So who wants to start with that? Do you want to give me an intro and tell me how you guys met and,
Sure.
and what involvement you got.
Yeah. So thanks, Mike. I started off doing in Phoenix condominiums. I came with a guy from Canada when I came down here, and then I went off on my own, started doing larger projects, and the projects were always ones that were a little difficult to do, because I like things that are creative. I like being able to leave an impact on the society and leave something that's beneficial, not just doing cookie cutter things over and over again. So, but because of my background, I guess I got a little bit burned out of doing just condos all the time. So when we came across this property, it just kind of like weaved everything together. That's the previous landscape experience, the farming experience, the yoga experience, because we want to do like wellness retreats up there. And because it's so close to Phoenix and so different, that it's, I could see the vision immediately of what it would look like completed. And it's in a federally designated area in AVA now with for wine growing. There's not a lot of large vineyards up there, but it's rapidly becoming, a recognizable thing. So when it was a golf course. Before that, it was a dude ranch, and a lot of famous movie actors and
It
actresses.
was owned by the mob at one point.
It was owned by the mob. It was
Sinatra.
owned- yeah. It's had a lot of interesting characters that have owned it, and Betty Davis got married in the ranch house.
Yeah.
John Wayne used to stay there. Clark Gable used to land his plane on the grass fields, and then they'd go make Western movies in Sedona. And then after that, but before that, it was Indian farmland. So now we're sort of taking it the full circle back to farming again, and we want to do farm to table. We want to do a lot of education for people that don't know where food comes from or how it should be grown. We want to pay homage to some of the Native American, place and food that they grew, and then we're going to do some vineyards, and because I had a relationship with Hilton on one of my projects, we've been able to convince Hilton to do a tapestry hotel, and one of my best friends works for Sotheby's in California. And so I've kept in contact with her. She helped me sell condos in Mexico. And then we ended up getting in contact with Brad through, it was another lady.
Another agent in Washington, D.C. area.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
Put me in touch with Brad, and then we just met and hit it off. And
now we're working together on this
So
incredible project.
What do you see in this, and how do you see it, coming together? It's a lot. People don't understand how much it takes. First of all, the creativity involved, which kind of comes naturally to both of you because this is a great creative, so if you have a passion for something, it makes it a lot easier. But it's more than that. There's regulations, there's zoning, there's figuring out pricing levels and activities and things that make this all work. What did you see in the project, and how have you? And I know you got a whole team. I've seen some of the great.
In just south of Sedona, with a farm-to-table restaurant, spa, and 57 villas that are going to be attached to that property that they're going to need sold. Everything about it sounded really interesting, and what was really interesting to me was that this is not a destination right now. Where we are, it's about 24 miles south of Sedona. And Sedona is beautiful, and people go there in droves, but it's becoming really, really crowded.
Yeah.
And going there on the weekend, you can barely drive through the yard. And what really attracted me was the ability to creatively build a new destination close by, where Sedona was accessible, but you would be out of the hustle and bustle and be able to bask around nature and a vineyard. What's better than
So if you're coming
drive
from
an hour and a half from Phoenix and you've got a villa on a vineyard.
I think you'll probably have quite a bit of people coming from Phoenix. Obviously, it's the sixth
Correct.
largest
Of course.
city, and you're going to have like this great farm to table thing, and they can make it a day trip, right? But it really is an international destination. Everybody in the world seems to want to go to Sedona. It's like one of those places that you have to go to.
Absolutely.
But you're right. It is congested. Trying to get on a Jeep and doing a trail or whatever, but it's kind of the perfect world because you can go to this, have that serenity, and the nature, just walking along under the trees, like in the fall when we went. It was so gorgeous,
That's amazing.
with the colors and everything. And but then you can jump in your car for dinner or go spend a day over there or play golf over in Sedona, whatever your deal is. But it's a great destination location.
It's easy to get back to Phoenix, and it's easy to get to Flagstaff if you want to go to Flagstaff for the day when you're there, or location, and it's surrounded by beauty. I mean, it is, just get off the highway and you're in a completely different place than all of those places.
So what do you do? I mean, tell me the stages. And I work in, I have a landscape company, Agave, that I've worked on probably most of the major projects in Phoenix, right? I see the process that developers go through, but a lot of people don't understand it all. And this is an alternative project. This is really something that's born out of, passion and love, really, and love for the environment. What's the process that you have to go through? What are the stepping stones? And where are you guys at in the process right now? What would you guesstimate? And this is impossible. We'll put you on the spot, but what would be an opening time? Because planting out the vineyards and the trees, and it takes several years before those grapes are viable for wine. And you're talking about a brewery on site and a lot of different things. So walk me through kind of the process and where you are on it.
Okay, well, when we decided that we wanted to buy it, that was about 4 years ago. So we wanted to make sure we had water rights. So we did a big analysis on that with chief hydrologist that used to work for the Department of Water Resources. He did a big analysis. We got the water rights properly recorded with the state to the land. And then after we did that, we did a bunch of soil tests with a soil scientist from Australia that's done over 1,100 vineyards around the world. So he came and did soil tests, and he determined that it's as good as southern France, he said, as any vineyards he's seen for climate and soil. So we thought, well, that's, we're not crazy yet. So we thought, well, we need to make sure we can, get a brand there, a hotel brand that's going to attract people. And we talked to a couple different hotels, and we kind of settled in on Hilton because they've got such a big reservation system. And we got a soft brand called Tapestry that allows us to have a lot of flexibility in what the rooms will look like and what the hotel looks like. So it's like a boutique brand that Hilton's got. And then we needed, a good marketing company that could sell this stuff for us. So we kind of become like the band leader, and then you get as many good people around you as you can. But the big wild card for us was the neighbors, because that had been a pretty functional golf course for many years, and a lot of people had bought houses around the golf course because that's what they wanted. And so when we first had our meeting, we invited the neighbors. We started off very small, with small sort of special interest groups of people that we knew would support us. And then we tried to get them to contact the neighbors to try and get as much support as possible. And then we ended up with the big meeting. 250 people show up. And we thought, oh, this is either going to go really good or really bad.
Of course, south really quickly.
Like a lynching or something. But they were, everybody was on board, and they were all happy. And the county, we're in an unincorporated part of the county, and the county's been very supportive. We got the golf course approved to change back to vineyards because it was agriculture at the beginning. So the county approved that almost immediately. And the hotel was already zoned for a 50-room hotel on the site. So we were okay with that. And then we bought some platted lots along the golf course, so we didn't have to change that. So the only thing right now that's sort of up in the air is glamping, because we want to do some
Right.
glamping there.
Yeah, you had talked about maybe even some tree houses,
Yep.
some small tiny houses, and some other cool architectural stuff, whether it's a hemp house or something like that.
Yeah.
But
County is fully supportive of all that
Yeah.
stuff.
I think in some respects it's not a normal project, because what makes a normal
Not at all.
project is
Not even a little bit.
you
That's what's-
bulldoze everything,
what's
and
fun.
you put every single inch is something you sell off. You know, you're building condos and houses and whatever. And this project's not really about that at all. And it's not really even supported that way. And it's not, you're not doing it. I mean, I assume that it can be in a profitable entity, but it's not really for the love of money so much as it's to create kind of a signature piece, right? It's a legacy for what you're doing. How many projects like that does, I mean, Sotheby's handles everything. I'm all over the world and I see
Yeah.
Sotheby's. You know,
Yeah,
so-
we are the #1 luxury brand in the world.
Right.
I've been with the company for 15 years. I started as a manager for offices in Connecticut. Then they kept moving me closer and closer to New York City. So I wound up in the town that I grew up in Scarsdale, managing the Scarsdale, New York office.
Wow, okay.
And I spent 10 years with them.
And that's a
in
dynamic
management.
market. Oh
That
my God.
was
That's
that
crazy.
was some of the most excitement and some of the most miserable times I've ever had.
Of course.
It's a tough place.
Oh, yeah.
but it's the people
your
are,
wits
the
about
people
you.
the people are intense, and I grew up there, so I it was something that I was able to navigate through. 10 years of management within Sotheby's. We have a global networking event every year. I went to all of those, and I met a lot of people. And then I moved to Arizona a little over 5 years ago, and left management and said, I'm going back into sales. That's what I love to do. I love to market, and I love the creativity of it. And I already owned my home here, so I just packed up and quit my job and moved, and had no idea that those 10 years, how many not only contacts and business relationships that I had, but friendships that I had. And as soon as I put on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram that I was managing, I was no longer managing, and I was selling exclusively in Scottsdale and Phoenix.
People coming out of the woodwork.
Just started sending me business and sending me clients.
Because they knew you had that integrity, and
Yep,
they
they
knew you had
knew, like, and trusted
you
me.
vetted the
Yeah.
quality of
Yeah.
what you were working on.
Correct, and I never tried to sell them anything, and I was there for being my authentic self.
I see it because I travel all over the world, and we were just talking about Cabo's got 2 or 3 two places there that we went to that were really special, experiences. But I've seen it, and you've gone to New Mexico, and you went to one that had a lot of spiders in it.
And the Daintree rainforest. in
Yeah,
Australia,
and I'm actually going to be in a couple of weeks in Botswana.
Oh.
Staying over the delta in a tree house. or
Bring your
whatever.
deeds.
Yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
No, it's
I'm
not.
no, that's
yeah,
not-
right, yeah. You got to watch it no matter where you go.
I don't use yeah.
But the idea is that I know this is a big thing because I think it's an authentic thing that humans are looking for. Is how do you get back to nature? How do
we
you
get
do that in
back
an
to-
ecotourism type of way? So, how much have you ever seen? Because you're in New York. I mean, there's not a lot of this going on in New York.
This is a particularly unique project, and that's what really drew me to it. And I'm so excited to be working on this. But it takes a lot of the things that we had a big LEED certified condo project in a building in an historic building in Scarsdale that I grew up going to dinner at and hung out. It had several incarnations. The last one that I remember was Charlie Brown's. It was like a pub, and in college I would go there and we'd hang out there, and then it became another restaurant. And evidently, and it's before we ever got there. My parents moved there in '67. Before that, it was rumored to be a brothel. So we we took
So
that.
you got there a little late.
Yeah, all the restaurants were done, and someone bought it and turned it into high-end, beautiful luxury,
Yeah.
LEED certified condos, and that was one of the projects that I had the pleasure of working on. And then through the Sotheby's brand, we're working, and I'm connected now with some of the top agents, most of the top agents within the brand in the world. And we share our listings, we share our experience. It's really a collaborative experience. I'm so glad that I was recruited by Sotheby's when I was.
I think that's the
because
right pairing.
It was perfect for me.
Yeah.
And now I'm friends with some of the best people and some of the best brokers in the world, all over the world.
And this project though is unique enough. You look back on your career. I look back on my career, and I remember, we've done thousands of projects, and a lot of times I remember them before they got a name on them or before there was a street on it or anything. I remember the environment. That's what I always look at, is I look at that base environment, and then it's a matter of how you work with that land, or how you, and I've seen some projects where they've destroyed the environment to build what they did. Some that and once in a while you get one that just blends beautiful. I mean,
Exactly.
the boulders or Terra Vita, or there's a handful of projects
Absolutely.
that we worked on that were just kind of harmonious with nature. And what's crazy, not crazy, but it goes without saying, if it's done right, people can appreciate it from anywhere,
Absolutely.
right? And if it's done wrong, that's a different story.
But it's interesting because people, a lot of times they can't figure out what it is about it
Right.
that makes it feel so right.
No, of course not. And that's the art of what you're doing, right? It's
Right.
how you do it. So, so when you're working on a project like that, Sotheby's is Sotheby. I don't know if I pronounce it. Sotheby's.
Sotheby's.
Sotheby's. Okay.
Yes.
And I've seen literally. I was in Monaco a couple of weeks ago. I've seen them like everywhere on the planet, right? And it's always quality brands that they're working on. But and you guys do a little bit more, I'd say, than the run of the mill broker would do. And I've seen what you're doing. What have you guys done together on this? Because you guys did an entire like design package and
Correct.
everything else that.
Yep.
And you have to do it. You have to put it on print first, and you have to have robust discussions. Well, I want to use this. No, you shouldn't because of this or whatever. And so
we put
you've
together
had a whole team on this.
preliminary. We call it's basically a skeleton. And right now we are just waiting to plug in the new renderings and floor plans, and then tighten it up and finish off the design, and then we're ready to rock and roll. Build a website for the project, and then we start taking reservations and have an interest list.
And it started off as like a vineyard type thing, right? It was all going to be vineyard. You might even have vineyard in the name. I don't know what. It's a lot more, because you'll have vineyard there, but you're talking about orchards. You're talking about using you're going down to soil health with organic soils, and maybe doing composting and things like that on the property. But it's also about farm to table. So there'll be small gardens in various areas that whoever's there to experience it can walk through it. There's a lot of different things you can grow. We talked about growing, wheat and barley and some hops. I think you can grow hops up there as well, because one of the things you're doing, you have that wine area, but you also have, to have a premium product and work with the breweries in Phoenix. So talk about some of that, the other ideas and the other concepts that you have going.
Yeah, so we have there's a small lake on the property. It's 5 acres, but it's kind of a wildlife refuge, and it's on a flight path for migration of birds. So we get a lot of interesting birds that end up on that lake on their way, and it's a sort of an integral part of the community. So we're going to create some of the villas will be around the lake. Not right on the water, but we're going to have some hiking trails because we have a lot of wildlife up there. We've got white-tailed deer that sort of wander around the community. You see them all the time. And there's javelinas, and there's raccoons, and there's all kinds of stuff that you see up there that you just don't see here.
Right.
So it's interesting, and we want to have some interpretive trails, and we're going to do some tree houses. So that'll be different. Some glamping, where you can actually get back to nature. Probably some fire pits where you can have outdoor fires and roast marshmallows and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like you used to do when you were kids. And
Good for a family, but also like a great adult
Absolutely.
Yeah.
experience.
You know,
right? I mean, the
and Doug
connoisseurs really.
mentioned we're going to have a small spa, yoga, bicycling. I'm vying for pickleball.
pickleball, we have two pickleball courts.
2 pickleball
Gotta
courts.
have that. Not
Gotta have that. Yep.
a little
Weddings.
noisy, but it's you've got lots of the cool part is it's not like a square plot of land.
No.
No.
You're working with the natural topography.
Absolutely.
So you're down and you've got the and what's kind of wild for me is because I work on projects everywhere is the river has so much water in it. I mean, you feel like this is kind of that special place because of the well, right? The Montezuma's
Right.
well. And the last time I was up there, I decided, I'd been there so many times. I was like, you know what? I got to go check out the other parts of this. And Montezuma's well was so fascinating to me. Then I talked to the people who were there, the forest department. And what was crazy is through all the droughts and everything else, the level of Montezuma's well is within an inch of what it was like 100 years ago. Little biome, it's its own environment. And from there, it feeds, I don't know if it's 1 or 2 little rivers or creeks that come off of it. It comes in from,
Well, he said Colorado, right? Or as far away as Canada, they thought underground.
yeah, it's an underground thing. And the water isn't at the well per se. It's like up in the hills nearby, I think is what they were telling me. And that's where the spring is. So it's kind of a natural thing. And it feeds that well. And then from there, it goes down and it really goes right through your property. And the old golf course was fed, and we built golf courses and seen it, but it was literally fed gravity feed,
Right.
a little
Ditches.
ditch, reusing all of that. But I think it's from an environmental standpoint and using today's technology, with irrigation and being able to drip and direct the water, it's going to be very water efficient.
Yeah.
And the fact is that water is really very available up there, and you don't have a lot of people. This is the great thing about this resort is you're not building a 500-room hotel.
Correct.
This is like, okay, come here and experience this and the quiet of it. And I've lived in Phoenix for years, and I don't want to put Sedona down. Sedona's a cool place to
Great
visit,
place.
but it's too busy for me. And it's like, if you're from a beautiful place, like if you're from France or you're from, Tahiti or what, you're up in Canada near Lake Louise, and now that the pressures on those places with population make it not even. I was in Lake Louise a couple of summers ago, and you can't even drive up there.
No, now they're busing you up.
You have to get a ticket to go, and it's like almost. I feel like you're going to one of the most beautiful places on the planet, but it's a zoo.
Yeah.
You're only allowed to like look in and see the animals, right? The area that you're in what I think is so cool is, near that Montezuma's well, off on a dirt path, you can go and there's like amazing hiking, and mountain biking. So you're really, but it's quiet, and it's in an area that doesn't have all these people in it. Yeah, you're hour and a half from Phoenix. You jump off a plane and you're there, but you're also close to Sedona. You're close to Flagstaff. You're close to Jerome. All these
Yep,
cool
all of
places that are just short. And what a great vacation trip it can be. But it also, you get that experience, that quiet.
And that's
solitude.
exactly what excited me about it, is that we get to create a destination which is extremely experiential for whoever is coming to visit or who will be buying the villas for a
Right.
second home, and it will be like a little bit like a bit of everywhere, every one of your favorite places on earth. A little bit of Tuscany, a little
Yeah.
bit of because it's not like anywhere else
And
that
I
I've ever
imagine
been.
you'll get a pretty international crowd.
100%.
And people from all over the place coming up, but you'll get a fair amount of people.
Right. You have to go to Napa or somewhere.
Right, right.
Fly
It's
there.
just similar to an experience.
Napa's a
But that's-
schlep.
Yeah, right.
That's a schlep, and there's a lot of pressure
I tried,
there,
yeah,
too.
I
right?
tried.
Yeah.
Too long of a car ride.
So again, it's impossible to talk timeline, but talk timeline. Give me an idea of what comes next, what's in the process next, and when do you foresee, because there's a lot of development that has to take
Yeah.
place. Is this,
Possible, and the general store. And then the villas, we'll start on the villas. And then the vineyards, hopefully will all happen this year. All those things will be either underway or we'll have some of them completed. And then at the same time, we'll be doing the plans for the hotel, because that'll take probably 6 to 8 months or more before we get that completed, ready for permits. And then we would start construction, and then we'll open the restaurant. Probably we might open it in phases, so it might be open partially on the weekend or something like that. And then then we want to do the glamping. We want to build some more houses. We've got another area of lots that are 36 lots up on the ridge that are
those are beautiful.
2.5 acre lots that will be an equestrian component as well. So we'll have some estate lots that Brad's going to sell for us. But we want to get weddings going and corporate retreats and
Yeah, that's
things
I
like
think
that.
would be because it is like family reunions. It'd be phenomenal.
It's just so nothing exists like it.
Started on it, and it's a process to build
Yeah.
because you're not mass grading and you're not rushing through things. What I love about the idea is that some of these structures are so unique. I mean, you stayed in a treehouse in Puerto Vallarta.
I remember the name of the
That was,
place.
You do. What was the name? of that?
Acres Resort.
Acres, yeah.
Next
And
to
that
it.
was cool, but a little rustic for and maybe for you, Brad, too. It was,
Depends on the critters.
So here's what I like. I went to a place called Sabi Sabi in Africa. It's in South Africa. It was kind of closer to Johannesburg, but it's in the Crozier National. And they had, first of all, the entire thing was eco-friendly, and they had like the reception bar, restaurant, they had a wine cellar, all built in one area, and that's where you went. But then they only had 13 different, I don't know what you'd call them. They're not tents. They were buildings, but they were built into the ground. And so it's really unique, but it was extremely high end, right? And like the food was amazing. In your room, they had a credenza that was a wet bar that had all top.
Well, that was not my eco resort experience at all.
This was
At
all.
all.
And I mean, just a beautiful bathroom
Sounds
with
lovely.
a tub that looks out, and you could see like an elephant literally take a drink out of my little pool. That every place had a little pool. He'd take a drink, and he walked on the roof above me, and I'm like, wow, I'm having an amazing cocktail, right? And I'm sitting in a tub with salts and everything else. I mean, for me, that's perfect, right? So
That sounds
you have
great.
the ability to
Sign me up.
You've got some funky places to stay, which are like nobody's, haven't stayed in before. But then you'll have the high quality luxury of the
Absolutely.
spa and the rooms. But then contrast that with that area that you're right, that complex you have, which is that old bar, which, that old bar really needs you to sit there and have like a whiskey.
The Rusty
right?
Spur.
Yeah, it's like it goes back, it takes you
Yeah.
back to old Arizona
Yeah.
from like the 40s or the 50s, where it's just it really brings you back. And that then goes back to the 20s or,
Yeah.
so you got that area that's so cool. And now off of that, you're going to do in one area you're doing the wine tasting in an old building that will still keep its character. And some of the stuff that's the best, I think, is when you quality repurpose some old buildings. You were talking about one or two that were back in New York, and it's that it's that something that you're not throwing that history away. You're embracing it, and you're talking about it, right? And so you have that ability to go into that bar. On one side, you got the building that will be the wine tasting, looking out over vineyards and orchards. And then on the other side, you've got the beer hall, the outdoor beer hall, which is just really casually, like a wonderful place to go. And then you have the bar, which is small, so it's going to have to be pretty exclusive. You'll have the ability for people outdoor in the farm to table to have a large crowd, but getting in and having, it reminds me, have you ever been to Rarities in Manhattan? It was one of the old families. One of the original families had that house down there in Midtown, and that bar is classic. It was like a library or whatever, and you just had that feeling like, oh my God, and everything was high quality. And you guys have that ability to do all of the above.
Everything, and you can get as dirty as you want or refined as you want.
Right.
At this place.
Exactly.
And it's gonna be,
you can go out
great.
and ride a mountain bike and hike and do all those things.
And come back, shower, get in the pool,
get a massage,
have a martini,
quality cocktail.
Yes,
and
an
a
organic
fresh
martini,
a fresh farm to table experience. And
absolutely,
I would think that also people can learn about some of the agriculture because you're going to have different components of agriculture. So, and people, if they want to stay more of an extended stay, can actually be part of that, maybe that daily cropping of, hey, what are you going to have tonight? Well, let's make a salad. Let's go and get some radicchio and some onion and that kind of thing, and we'll help harvest it. And
then we're going to do
we'll eat it for
lavender
dinner.
fields too.
The lavenders, I got a postcard in my car that when I was in
France?
Nice. I was in Châteauneuf-des-Papes and that whole area. And they have these fields. Now, I was off season, but they have a field of vineyard. They always have orchard there with that, but then they'd have fields of the lavender. And I could just imagine the color. It still looked beautiful, but I imagine like in late fall, the colors have got to be just dramatic, and that's what that postcard is. So
so we're going to make some of the products out of the lavender too, like
and
some of the
craft
oils,
cocktails,
soaps and stuff.
So tons of fun, and it could be like that when you go on some of those trips. You have cooking classes and little gardening classes and stuff like that. And these are things I think that are in demand. We see
like experiences,
right? Real experiences, and we see some of the tourism that's around starts getting. I went to Dubai and everything had a price tag on it. And it was like, I felt like, again, this was like, or you're on a cruise ship and it's like, okay, here's your excursion for the day. It's $500 a person to go do something for 3 hours or whatever. And it's not real, right? And
buses are all lined up.
Yeah, and then some things are so commercialized. You go on a golf vacation and it's like, okay, I'm going to go golf all day long or whatever. And I think that people are gravitating toward real things now. They're not necessarily interested in being packaged
or sitting on their phones.
Right. You might even have.
I think we're getting tired of that. Quite honestly,
you might even have a phone-free zone.
We may.
That might be something. Wouldn't it be great?
That would be so great.
But you might have people having severe stress attacks if you.
Well, if you have realtors there, they're not without their phones. Okay? That's not happening.
It's a realtor-free zone.
Yes, unless you have a pager and an assistant at home.
Right. So, what if people are interested in this? You haven't really, because you're not quite finalized. But how are they going to find out about it? And just keep your eyes and ears open. I know you're toying with a couple of different names right now. when do you think? I mean, part of it is, yes, you got to start on some of the internal irrigation and water distribution and farming and some of those things, because you do have to get your crops. Some of them are quick crops, but a lot of them, like an orchard and a vineyard, take years to develop. So you're starting on those things now and rehabbing some of the facilities. How about from a marketing standpoint? When do you think that starts?
As soon as possible. We want to make sure that whatever we put out is the right stuff, and it's taken a little bit longer than we thought. However, again, it has to be right, not fast. We've got the renderings happening right now. We're almost finished with those. We've got our marketing materials. We're working on the website now. And then, I've been soft marketing just by word of mouth, talking to people, some of my colleagues, some of my friends, and everyone I speak to said, "Wow, that sounds amazing. Let me know when."
So it's a great opportunity for investment, right?
Absolutely.
At first, it's probably going to come off and be very cost effective for that first investor. I see this being like a Napa where, or there's so many properties around the world where we see something that's going for a couple $100,000. Once it gets built out, it's built out. I mean, there's opportunity around that area that you could invest. Don't get me wrong, and I think people will jump on that as well. But
I think
this could be one of those deals where it goes from you're buying something small for a couple $100,000, and in 5 to 10 years, it's worth a couple of million because it's landlocked. It's like beach property, right? Or skiing property.
I agree, and I think it's going to create an opportunity to develop more of that land around what we're doing. Like I said, we are creating the destination, and once we do that, I believe that it's going to become more and more popular.
Right.
And I anticipate that our prices will be going up after the initial launch, depending on how popular it is. But again, if the soft word of mouth marketing is any indication, this is going to be a huge success.
And you talked about the neighbors who, all the neighbors we've met have been pretty friendly, but it's obviously
supportive.
Their property values go through the roof. But for some of them, it's also possible employment.
Yeah.
So that's. It's really a win, and it's been a kind of an abandoned piece for over a decade, and no one likes to see something. I mean, native is one thing. If it's a pure, forest, nobody wants you to go in and mess with it, right? But this is a property that's begging for someone to come in and love on it.
100%, yep. And it's going to be loved.
And the people who live there are the same way. They're hoping is to be able to engage with the property and see. I mean, the aesthetics of this thing, I think, are going to be off the charts.
And I my hope is that the people who live there will have a sense of pride about what we're doing and really embrace it.
Yeah, because it's going to be a controlled. You'll have a lot of people coming up. I know that, but it's going to be a controlled deal where I'm sure it'll be reservations only. It's the farm to table aspect and maybe some of the other things that you'll have going on, whether it's horse rides or hikes and things like that. People will come up for the day, but you're going to have to plan ahead to do it.
Well, and I think
it's going to be in demand, right?
50 rooms is exactly the right size for something like this, at least to start.
Right.
Because it's not going to create that much of a negative impact. I don't think any of a negative impact.
Sure.
It's just going to add.
Well, for people who get to stay there, it's a special experience.
100%.
Right.
For people in the valley, it's just a great getaway. It's still warm because it's kind of Sedona type weather, but it's just enough cooler than Phoenix. And like I said, when I went out there, the spring, everything starts growing, and the spring is like a marvelous. It's like a farm in the springtime, right? Which is right now. So as things start to grow, it's like, wow, you want to be there. And then the summer, of course, is, amazing temps. A little bit warm, but people will want, from out of the country, are going to want that kind of warm environment. The people from here, it's just cool enough to be able to go up. The nighttime temperatures, I think, that's in Phoenix. I don't mind a hot day. I just want it to cool off a little at night.
Yeah,
right?
it's terrible if it's 110.
And that's really what is happening out there for you guys. So it's really that part of it. I think is pretty cool. The way that people from here can go up, enjoy it for the day.
Yep.
And people who come in though that get to actually stay there will be an amazing. And you'll have some of the homes are for sale. Some of the villas are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
yeah, they're all for sale.
Yeah, so those things will be. You got the hotel space at only 50 hotel rooms.
Correct.
Right.
And you have maybe some glamping and maybe some treehouse stuff.
Right.
But it's limited.
And
Yeah.
investment wise, we're working out how, when the owner isn't there, they can actually capitalize on the hotel and have it rented out.
We've done so many resorts and keep properties, and we talked about this before. I usually have kind of a taste for things I should have bought over the years.
will be one of them.
There's a long, long list, right? But when we worked on Terra Vita and some other properties, the developer itself at that time didn't quite understand what they had, and then they ended up with like a waiting list. People camping out over the weekends and stuff to buy in. And I think the only regret that they had was they should have charged more for it right off the bat, because the secondary buyers were the ones who really, the first guy came in, bought at a good deal, and
Right.
3-4 years later that they sold it for double what they paid.
And that
I
could
think that's
happen.
the environment you'll have.
There is this is something that's different, and we take that into consideration. So we will be charging more than a typical per square foot home would be, but there's a limit to how much we get until we have buy-in. So the people who were buying it first will get the best deals without a doubt.
And I imagine for big corporate retreats, they might have to stay in other areas or whatever. You'll have some housing for some of them. But sometimes they come and there's 500 people coming, right? So they could, in theory, lease the place for 3 or 4 days, and bring people up for day trips and things like that.
I'm anticipating not only people who are staying at our hotel going to Sedona for the day, but I'm anticipating
People from Sedona
coming
to
to here
yours.
for a little bit of peace and quiet and
And for that experience,
and
because you don't
an
have that
incredibly
farm.
different experience than they're
Right.
getting there. Yeah.
So I agree. Well, I appreciate my guests today. I'm going to wrap up.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
We
Mike.
got Brad. We got Doug here. They've got a really special project. I'll let you guys figure out how much you want to show and post at it, if you've got a website or something ready for them
Okay.
Yep.
to go on.
For
But,
right now, if anyone's listening and has interest, to reach out to me at Russ Lyons Sotheby's International Realty, Brad Kimmelman, and just give me your name so I can get you on
start
the interest
it,
list.
Sure. Yeah, and we'll. I'll love to continue this as a series, where once you get further ahead, we'll do the podcast right up there on site.
Ooh, that sounds
Okay, that'd
great.
be amazing.
Yeah.
And as you start getting people in that are interesting, we don't want the boring people, but
No.
you're going to get some interesting people that are going to be involved with this project. And I'd love to have them on the podcast to see how it comes together, because it really takes a lot of creative people that have a passion for this kind of thing to make it work. To have that, like you said, you walk up to a project, you don't know why you love it, you can't figure it out, but why you love it is because it is harmonious with the environment, but it also took a lot of thinking about how the whole thing works. So,
Yeah, we'll get Al Capone's niece on there. She lives up there.
okay, great.
And the really interesting, and once we get this open, I'm going to be singing on Thursday nights at the.
Nice.
Excellent.
It's in my contract.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Thursday nights. You heard it here.
There you go.
So I want to give you a gift, both of you a gift, and this is usually what we hand out to guests that make it into the studio.
Well, thank you.
And this is a wine that we've made. Soil Seed and Water does all of the amendments for the property, from compost to a Bacchus blend that we created for wine, and then we spray a foliar on it that's phosphate foliar at the right time for during Eurasian. But we're growing. We've got a couple of different sites and growing in very inhospitable conditions. The property had no fertility on it at the time, and we've transformed that. And I hope you like it. It's Primitivo's Zinfandel. This is our first year blend, and I've got 2 more years after this that we've bottled up as well. And hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
This is
Thank you.
probably not as good a wine as can be definitely grown on the property you're working with, but pretty drinkable, I think. So
I'm
hope
excited
you
to
enjoy
taste it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for joining the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Click subscribe and like for ongoing insightful conversations. Explore our webpage for show notes and additional resources. Visit our guests' webpage for deeper insights. Your engagement is the foundation of our journey, and until next time, keep pursuing wisdom.